Hello, I'm Edward Hunter, and welcome to my interview. My interviewee today has had a varied and exciting career, having competed in illustrious and varied series worldwide, such as GP2, A1 Grand Prix, Super League Formula, and Champ Car. It's in the World Endurance Championship, though, that he's finally hit the limelight. He took pole at Le Mans last year with a record-breaking time of 3 minutes 16.887, and it's a lap record on the post-1989 layout. Considered by the team itself to be Porsche's most consistent performer across the full season out of any driver from its two cars, he was kept out of qualifying in the final races of 2015, so the sister team of Hartley, Webber and Bernhard had a better chance of securing the title, which they did. With the help of teammates Romain Dumas and Mark Lieb, he's won 2 WEC races, Brazil in 2014 and Bahrain at the end of 2015, and they finished third in the points for 2 years running. It is, of course, Switzerland's Neel Jani. So Neel, thanks very much for coming on the show. Do you think 2016 is going to be the season where you, Roman and Mark become world champions?
Well, first of all, hello, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
2016, we'll see, we want to achieve more than what we achieved 2015, clearly, that's the aim.
Yeah, but it wasn't a bad year all in all. I mean, third in the points 2 years running is pretty consistent, isn't it?
The thing was, 2015 in the end, third was a nice ending, but it wasn't where we really wanted to be.
Well, especially seeing where the sister car ended up.
20 minutes deciding basically the championship, We had a DNF in Austin 20 minutes before race end. If we just would have finished that race, we would have won the world championship, and because of those 20 minutes in all of those 68, I think, racing hours, it decided if we were first or third in the championship. So, it's still kind of a little bit, doesn't make us super happy, but, things could be worse.
Yeah. And, it's a team effort at the end of the day, and hopefully the luck will go back your way in this year. So, first question that we have is from Alexander Bernardino. And he asks, "Hi Neel, how did you get your Porsche WEC ride?" And he asks a couple of other questions as well, but we'll just start with that one.
Well, I was racing in WEC with Rebellion for 3 years. Before it was LMS, where I was racing with Rebellion. And we had quite a good campaign with Rebellion, finishing 4th overall at Le Mans with a private team, which was a great result in 2012. And this got me onto the radar of Porsche, and obviously I also contacted them. And then the contact started, 2012, and slowly we could get into a deal. I think it's like everywhere in racing, you need good results in your backpack, and then you can go and talk to the teams.
Okay, that's interesting. Alexander also wants to know, is racing in the dark more difficult than during the daytime? Sort of, I think maybe why as well. So what the challenges are?
Yeah, well, it's a common question. A lot of people ask that. For some racers or for some drivers, I think they struggle quite a bit at night. There are some. For me, it's no issue. I have no difference between day or night. Your eye, adjusts to the night quite quickly. There is something nice at also driving at night. You kind of feel more alone, and you have to anticipate sometimes a little bit more, because obviously it's dark, and when you go at 350 at Le Mans at night, it's a special feeling, but it's also an exciting feeling, obviously.
Do you get enough sleep beforehand? Do you have a sort of training program in mind, or is it just kind of you stay up and then all of a sudden, I've got to drive? I guess you're very organized.
Well, anyway, when you have the 24-hour race like Le Mans or other night races like Bahrain, you're full of adrenaline, and it's not so much of a problem to wake up at that stage.
Yeah, I guess the team. Sometimes, do you ever get any unexpected calls, like someone else has to?
Exist. They do exist, and then it's mainly on on the race weekends, it's our physios, which have to make sure to know where we are, so they can always get us immediately, and then that we can get into the car.
Okay. So Alexander has two small questions. He wants to know, one, do you have Indian blood running through your veins? And two, do you think someday racing in Switzerland is possible again? Oh, and he says thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, he just said thank you at the end of his questions. That's all.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, first of all, yes, because my dad is from India. So, yeah, 50% Indian blood and 50% Swiss blood. So that answers that question. It's half-half. But I grew up and was born in Switzerland.
Okay, so that's why you've gone for the Switzerland flag, you know, whenever you, on your race results and everything.
Yeah, because you know I was born in Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland. My mother tongue is German or Swiss German. So you know that's why we're racing for the Swiss flag. But yeah, obviously Switzerland is the country where no racetracks are allowed, which is kind of odd. But it's because of the Le Mans accident. I think it was 55
yes.
or 54. Because of that, they banned it because of danger, and nowadays it's more of a political issue to actually take it out of the law. But you know, in the end, we have such many great tracks around, very close, like Hockenheim, Monza, Monaco. You know, they're all within 3-4 hours drive. Spa is 5 hours or 4.5. There's so many good racing tracks close. So in that way, Switzerland is nicely placed in the middle of Europe's racing heart.
So let's move on talking about World Endurance Championship specifically. This question's from Craig Woolard, and he wants to know which circuit that isn't on the World Endurance Championship calendar at the moment would you like to see added to the series? You mentioned Magny-Cours, of course, so is that one of them?
I have to say I wouldn't mind racing in Kielami, South Africa.
Oh yeah.
I've raced there in A1GP, and it's great atmosphere. Just a great event in South Africa, and the people were very enthusiastic. So the crowd was great there also. So I would say Kielami would be a nice place to go to.
Oh, it's a great track as well. It's a very fast and flowing one.
Yeah, and it just got redone. I think I haven't seen it since it got redone, but let's say the little bit older layout was a great one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I haven't heard. I've heard a lot of mixed stuff about the new layout. I haven't seen it either, but I've heard a couple of people. Obviously, whenever they change something, it's always they really like the old one, and you know. But we'll see. We'll have to see which series go there and how the racing ends up. Anyway, next question's from another one of our admins, Ron Johnston. And he asks, which of the types of machinery that you've had the opportunity to drive do you like the most, or do you have a preference either way for any one of them?
I would say, you know, every car had its speciality and was unique. If we go back to my first Formula One test when it was the V10 engines, 2003. I think those are the engines we all miss in the way of sound and RPM. These were so quick cars. They were so quick. It was really hard to get used to the speed in the beginning when you're just coming out of junior Formula. And so physical to drive. So from that point of view, that is a special car. It was a special car. But you know, also Champ Car, racing in Champ Car, 950 horsepower, no traction control, no tire warmers, and through the cities like downtown Las Vegas, around Golden Nugget, you know, racing around there, it also had its flair, and driving those cars was very hard.
Wasn't there one track in Champ Car? I think it was I may be wrong, but I think it was Houston, where it basically ran over the tram lines or something, and the car.
San Jose.
That was San Jose, yeah. Oh, that must have been a bit scary.
Yeah. Well, I think the first year was really bad. I wasn't there. The first year I joined in 2007, and I think they solved it for that year. So it was a little bit easier.
Yeah. It's a shame what happened to. Oh, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, they adjusted the whole thing, I think, a little bit to make it better for the cars to run over. Yeah, and then, you know, also the A1 GP car, sound-wise, aero-wise, the aero was not very good, but you could slide around with the car, and you had to slide around to be quick. This made up for great racing, like touring car racing, basically with single-seater cars, but just because the aero wasn't so sophisticated, and the engine had a good sound, and that's what I like in A1, for example. It's just the racing, because the aero was letting cars being close to each other without, you know, getting dirty air. So, you know, every car has its thing, and I would say nowadays, if you take the 919, the Porsche, in terms of technology, the car is the most advanced, I think one of the most advanced in the world. If you consider with those recuperation systems, the two we have, and it's just with all the systems there in the car, and the acceleration with the hybrid engine is amazing nowadays. I think we reach 0 to 200 kph in like 4.5 seconds.
Oh wow, that must be like. It must be a real privilege as well, you know, especially with the huge high that Porsche are on at the moment.
And I've realized that eating a lot or having too heavy meal before you go drive this car, it's not good, because you might be pushed back out at acceleration. There is a lot of G-force on your body, just accelerating with that car nowadays. So, you know, every car has its speciality, I would say.
Oh, it's like going swimming. You don't eat before you go swimming. It's the same with the car because it's so quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Philip Aston wants to know, how does it feel to be working so hard in an endurance race? How do you prepare for that? Because I know you do sort of it's usually pre-season you do a couple of simulations that are longer than Le Mans itself in some cases. How do you deal with that?
Well, the first thing is obviously you need to be physically fit, so you prepare at home. You know, the people who live in a warmer side, they go cycling and do whatever. Me living in Switzerland, over winter I go cross-country skiing, I do indoor rowing, indoor cycling, stuff like that. So, you know, just that you have a good physical base. And then the driving, obviously, we have some long-distance tests or endurance tests also beforehand. But, you know, if you don't prepare for those, you will also not be able to run those. So preparation at home is quite important.
Yeah, that's the same for a lot of categories, not just Le Mans as well. So I guess you've been doing it quite early on in your career, training the fitness, right? Yeah. So the next question's from Quinlan Boza. Boza? Sorry, this is a strange surname. So he wants to know your honest opinion on the dispute between Formula One and World Endurance Championship fans, and so why are we so divided, and sort of the positives and negatives of each series. And he's sort of basing it on something he saw on Twitter between David Coulthard and Andre Lotterer, where Coulthard was basically pointing fun of the fact that he thought that WEC drivers didn't push flat out for a whole distance, whereas Formula One did because it's a sprint, and Andre Lotterer just pointed out that Andre Lotterer didn't agree.
I don't think David tried to say we are not pushing. I think he just misformulated it a little bit.
Ah, yeah.
But it went I think it went the direction of, you know, there's still in some of the heads is that endurance racing you have to nurse the car around the track.
Yeah, it's a very outdated view, isn't it?
Break. This still exists in some of the heads, but that's absolutely not true anymore. Our cars are at such a technological level nowadays, the LMP1 cars, that you have to go flat out every lap, and the reliability is there. Tires are there. We don't have to look after our tires like in Formula One.
Oh, no, absolutely not. In fact, you're doing double stinting the tires.
We can go out, and lap one, it's flat. It's the maximum we can do. So in that way, that's why it's actually quite physical nowadays, because when you have to go out, at Le Mans, for example, our stints are 3-4 hours. It's 3-4 hours flat out racing, but really flat. There is no early braking, no nursing or looking after tires. It's just all out you can do. And in that way, endurance racing has changed massively. And I don't think everyone understood it yet. Nico Hülkenberg obviously understood it because he ran there. And but I think a lot of drivers see it nowadays. That's why the interest has risen so much from people like Alonso, Button, and so on, because they've seen that in those cars, in our cars, you just go at it at the maximum you can, and you have mega technology. Cars are super quick. You have good grip, and the challenge is actually quite high for body and mind driving our cars. So in that way, I think the dispute between WEC fans and F1 fans, I don't think you need to, because it's two different racing categories, two different ways of racing. One is sprint, one is longer. At the moment, I think just Formula One is too much on nursing cars. It should be a sprint. It should be a sprint. That means flat out too. Our series will not go to nursing cars anymore because technology has just advanced so much compared to the past. So, I think you can fight about everything, or you can just accept things and enjoy both things. And I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, personally, I'm a fan of both, and I appreciate them for, what they are. One question I have that sort of links slightly to this is the clash between the Azerbaijan Grand Prix and the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's just sad, that we won't get to see Hülkenberg and at Le Mans, and the fact that that there's this TV clash, I guess? Sort of, it's like right back. I think the clash is.
It's just done on purpose. I mean, you don't need to talk about it. That it's not done on purpose.
No, it's just the way it ended up.
It looks very much like it was done on purpose, and I guess we all know why and who did it. There are reasons, and there have always been reasons for why also Formula One has been so long the only series in racing where everything was coming together, but that is obviously starting to break up now.
Yeah, people are starting to look to other series a little bit more.
Well, normally a manufacturer like Porsche, Audi, and Toyota, they wouldn't race in another series at that level. Then, if they race at that level, because they're spending the money, they could go to Formula One with the same amount they're spending. So, things have a reason. So it wasn't an accident that both races are on the same weekend, clearly.
Okay. So, Mark Waning, he's asking, because there's so much talk about closed cockpits in Formula One recently, how much view do you have in the closed cockpit Porsche car, LMP1, compared to an open F1 car? Because of course you've driven both. So.
Yeah, I mean, the view in a single seater is clearly a lot better. There's no doubt about that. You see better the apexes. In our cars, you need to go quite far ahead to see the apex because the wheel arch is in the way. That doesn't make it super easy, but it got better, and you get used to it also. You have everything, body and eye and everything adapts to certain circumstances, and then you get used to it. So, you can ask, you can see, with Nico or Mark, and also me, myself, driving for a long time single seaters, we all adapted, and it's not an issue anymore.
Do you have any thoughts about the halo that we saw Kimi Räikkönen testing out in sort of pre-season testing? Do you think it's the right way to go?
I don't understand why they want to put something on top of that. I mean, it has worked for the last 70 years, or I don't know how many years since it exists. And, it's one or two eyes, something happened, but that's kind of destiny, how things happen when something hits your head. I'm not sure this thing helps it. Then you might as well just put a full, let's say, like in a plane, put a full a lid over it, basically.
Yeah, but of course, that creates its own issues because the F1 car isn't designed to have that sort of.
Yeah, you might as well put a roof on top of it instead of something half like this. No?
Yeah, it definitely seems a bit like a half measure to me personally, but I don't know. Well, I think it should be.
The problem is then everyone will say, they're coming direction WEC. They don't want to do that either, no?
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why they do choose that, who knows?
Yeah. Well, my own opinion about the whole safety debate is that it should be science that really decides, what's the best way to go.
It wouldn't
Whether
have helped Bianchi, no?
no,
Bianchi would
no,
have still died
of
with his
course not.
crash. It wouldn't have helped him. It would have helped maybe Massa, but the spring can still fly through there and hit your head.
Hmm. Well, there have been a couple
So,
other fatal ones, like where wheels have sort of, fallen off the cars and hit people, like poor Henry Surtees in Formula 2 in 2009, which
yeah,
was...
but they're not introducing it in Formula 2. They're introducing
Well,
it in
Formula 2
1.
doesn't exist anymore, of course. Well, in that form
exactly,
anyway.
but
Yeah.
they're not introducing it in GP2 or all the other
That's the
series.
other thing that a lot of people haven't. Not something that I've seen many people talk about, the fact that if it's introduced in Formula 1, they're assuming that other series will automatically adopt it. So
what I mean.
yeah.
You know, as we say, there are things you do because they really help, but there are things you do because of politics. Let's see what this one is.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Anyway, so the next three questions are more about Formula 1, and the first of which is from Konstantinos Boramas, and he asks, throughout your career you were linked with reserve driver roles or operated as such multiple times in the 2000s. Do you feel a bit disappointed to never race in Formula 1, or are you much happier driving in endurance racing? And the other two questions are basically of a similar vein.
Okay. When I was young, growing up, obviously Formula One was what I was aiming for. I was quite early. At the age of 19, I managed to receive a testing contract, which was early. And then at that time, Formula One was still with the good big engines and was very physical to drive. It was a great experience, but I think we all know that Formula One nowadays, has also a lot of commercial aspects as a driver.
Definitely.
And you need to be at the right time, at the right place also. If you're not, it doesn't actually matter how good you are. You might not get your chance suddenly. I mean, look at Van Dorn. Van Dorn should have been having a cockpit this year.
Yeah, instead they've sent him off to Japan, haven't they?
This year, yeah, go ahead.
They sent him off to Super Formula in Japan, which is a
Complete
great
joke,
series in of itself. But Kobayashi says
it's a great series. It's super. And driving against Andre and all those guys over there, really tough. It's very tough. I think it's basically like Formula One, but it's just not the same attention. But in the end, what I want to say with that is, you need to be at the right place, right situation, with the right backing, with the right people around you, the right supporters. There's so many things that need to be correct that you get in there. And I just didn't want to stick forever around, and that's why I chose at some stage, it was 21, yeah, you too, I chose to go to Champ Car. I could have stuck around longer, and maybe I would have gotten my chance, no? Right time, right place. But, I wasn't just focused on Formula One, I was focused on racing. That's what I like to do. I don't want to hang around and wait for something. So
yeah, I think a lot of other drivers feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of drivers hung around too long, and they ended up with zero and with nothing. And some, look at Christian Klein.
Oh, Christian.
He ended up not having nothing anymore now.
Yeah, it's very weird how he left him.
Yeah.
That he sort of
that's right.
It sounded like with Christian Klein, it sounded like Red Bull weren't in. That he did sort of okay, and then Red Bull decided the second seat in 2006 they kept I think they put Dornbos in and a couple others as well, and that he sort of from the rumor that I heard was that Red Bull sort of decided they wanted Mark Webber coming in obviously, and then they for the following year, and they offered him to go to Champ Car or something, and he said, I want to stay in Formula 1, and they basically said, on your bike, son, and he was left in the cold really, which was a shame because I think a lot of people do rate Christian.
Afterwards he was at Peugeot, no? He had a good ride.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
But then he went back to HRT. You know what I mean? At some stage you have to decide which train you want to do, which train you want to jump on.
It's not an easy choice. So.
Yeah, and I decided then, well, I don't want to stick around too long, and I don't want to the situation with money and politics and so on, it just was never correct for me, at least in the early stage. I think in some stage it could have been correct. I think in terms of ability, I can say I could have easily done that because there are guys winning there whom I have beaten in my junior categories. There I don't see the issue, but on the other hand, I'm for sure not regretting anything because I ended up at Porsche, which I think next to this other brand with red cars is it's those two. When you're growing up, you think of fast cars, you think of those two brands, and so I'm quite happy. I'm not quite. I'm really happy, and we get nice company cars, even better for the road.
I was just wondering, talking a little bit briefly about Formula One in terms of your testing career. Do you feel a bit sorry for the young drivers coming through now because testing is, compared to when you were the young up and coming talent who was testing for a couple of teams, compared to back then, there's pretty much no opportunity to drive the car.
Yeah, in top teams it's now like in old teams, not old teams, in midfield or backfield teams. Because when I was at Sauber, they only had one car, or at Toro Rosso, they had only one car for testing, so we didn't do a lot in the end. Never tested a lot. I didn't get the opportunities in this way either to actually drive a lot. But, you see more and more young drivers going to WEC, LMP2, and then trying to get a ride in LMP1. Because in those rides you actually get paid. You don't have to bring sponsors.
Of course.
And it's a long-term deal if you are performing. It's not decided on politics or on how much backing you have, how long you can keep your ride.
Yeah, that's always been one of the most refreshing aspects of World Endurance Championship, especially for people who have been sort of in the Formula One bubble for so long. Yeah.
Well, if you just have to look at it one way. In WEC you got two Audis, two Porsche, two Toyotas, and the two Rebellions. That's 6, 7, 8 cars times 3. That's 24. 24 drivers alone already paid. It's more than in Formula One.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about other single-seater categories. Of course, you have had a lot of experience of that prior to joining Porsche. And Vitor Antonio wants to know, would you consider going back to single-seaters someday, for example, Formula E? And of course, I've got a bit of interest in this question, doing the Formula E podcast and everything. But he says, because there is a variety of excellent drivers all over the motorsport world going to this electric series, and I'm saying especially from World Endurance Championship, because they know half the drivers in Formula E are from there, and they made it so the calendars don't clash specifically. So is that sort of something you would be interested in, or is it sort of hush hush at the moment?
In terms of racing, watching it on TV, it looks like great racing. I think in terms of speed, you cannot even think about comparing it to LMP1 because in terms of technology and speed, the cars are nowhere in comparison. But in terms of racing, not sharing a car, it has for sure something appealing, and it's good drivers there, so competition is high. I've talked to several teams already, and but with Porsche, so far I wanted to focus on the Porsche project and really give my best there. But we're talking at the moment. I'm talking to some teams, and who knows? Maybe suddenly, if the situation is correct and Porsche agrees, I might add that to my program. Who knows?
I see. So it's dependent on Porsche more than.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I'm signed with them. They can decide if they let me go or not. Also.
Okay.
Clearly.
Porsche have. I'm just thinking out loud here. Porsche have links with Williams. Williams are doing the powertrain for Jaguar, who are entering next season. So if Porsche turned around and gave you an offer, would you think about it, or would it be like, no, I still want to focus on wet before making any decision?
Well, clearly my priority will always stay Porsche.
Yeah, obviously.
I think that's it's the brand where I want to be for long term, and it's a great place to be. It has a great future and great perspectives you have there. But
yeah, it'd be silly to give up.
Formula E could be interesting, but which team and what? we would have to see.
Yeah, that's something that you have to work out. But obviously, you don't even have to go there. I'm not forcing you to.
Yeah.
Brendan Sturgeon similarly asked, would you consider trying IndyCar or he asked testing for another F1 team and over getting a full-time F1 seat? But you've already confirmed that that's not really your focus anymore.
Well, IndyCar is not my focus because I've done Champ Car.
Yeah.
Now it's IndyCar. It has the ovals. I'm not a big fan of the ovals, and they have had a dead person every year minimum, and I think risk and reward is kind of hard there. And I think we all know how Justin died last year there. This was a very sad moment, and I knew Justin too. So
you raced against him in Champ Car, didn't you?
I want to race there. And yeah, as I said, WC offers to me everything. I have a great manufacturer in the back. The cars are mega quick. You can go flat out all the time. You have great competition. You get paid. You don't have to actually bring sponsors. It's all depending on your performance. What do you want more?
Yeah. And Sharon, finally in this sort of batch of questions, Sharon Jones wants to know which she uses example which current Formula One driver would you like to have as a teammate. But let's just expand that to talk about teammates in general, because you have a great bunch of teammates.
Super drivers around in our team, very good high level, all of them. And in WEC, generally, if you look at Andre, I think you can put Andre in any team in Formula One and he will do well. We saw what he did to Ericsson in the Caterham at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I think we don't need to discuss anymore the level around, and I don't care who's my teammate. In the end, he needs to be quick enough so we can win together the race, and that's it. And in the end, anyway, you focus on yourself because you need to make sure you're quick too, and that's it. The rest, I don't really care.
I talked in the introduction a little bit about I mentioned that you'd sort of been towards the end of the season, Porsche decided not to use you in the because World Endurance Championship has a very unique qualifying format, which is based on the times of two drivers, I believe. I've not actually seen the qualifying session, but I've heard about it. And what I heard was that you had sort of been not used, and it was a very strategic decision on Porsche's part to make sure that the other car had the maximum chance of winning the championship and gaining places on the grid. How did you feel about that?
After Austin, where we had the DNF or the technical failure in the lead, I basically knew it's veering in shit, no. And then in Fuji, again in the lead, and then we had to let the other car pass for the championship, give away our win. After that, I didn't really care anymore. Nothing to do, nothing to win.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just the way it goes sometimes.
In the end, it's understandable though. They had a chance to win the championship, so Porsche had to win the championship.
And there was the threat from Audi as well.
And we had to play our part. I mean, even if we personally don't like it, but here I think at some stage you need to put your personal interest a little bit back and think for the team, and that's what we did. And thanks to the fact that we actually gave them the win in Japan in Fuji, and held off the Audi in the last race also to win, they won the championship. If we wouldn't have given them the win in Fuji, it would have been all decided the other way around. So it was the correct decision from Porsche. Obviously, as a racing driver, you always want the maximum, and you will not be happy, but I think it's understandable. So no need to discuss too much about it. What happened?
Sorry.
Because in the end, everything was done perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of flattering though, just the way that they sort of kept you out of qualifying because they felt you were too quick. That's just my personal point of view. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, because of that extra point as well. No, you get in qualifying. And that extra point can decide quite a bit of things for pole position. So I had my show at Le Mans with the lap record. And
Oh yeah, of course.
I think it was first Swiss on pole in 47 years since Joe Siffert.
Another great Swiss driver. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my moment. That was my highlight of the year.
We should talk a bit more about that. Sorry, we haven't placed enough importance on how amazing that lap was. Sort of. So how did you do it?
Well, the thing was, going into qualifying, we knew that maybe this might be our only shot because next day was rain, so we had to nail something here. And I had my other two teammates and everyone going at it too, so I knew, okay, I need to do something here. And I could really nail that lap. I felt it first sector already. That got really well through the chicane. And then I had a bit of traffic, so that worried me a bit. But then in the middle part, and then at the end, the Porsche corners I again nailed massively well. Which when I saw the 316, I knew I was quicker than the simulation, so I thought that might be not too bad. And then I saw it was quite a good gap to the front, to second position. I was quite happy about that. And thinking about it, the average speed on that lap was I think 249 or 250 kph average speed. If I think back, it's actually massively quick. Scares thinking
ridiculously
about it.
quick.
Yeah, it gets scared thinking about how quick the lap was then.
You can't think about it though, can you? You just got to go on with it. if you stop and think about it, you're just like, whoa.
Maybe this year it goes quicker. Who knows?
Yeah, that's another thing. Because that was a lap record, but do you feel like WEC is sort of category where, unlike Formula One, where the lap records are all set back in 2004 or whenever, do you think that WEC is where, because the way it's developing at the moment, do you think that it's realistic that all the records can be broken, or a lot of the records anyway?
Well, last year was massive. No, we gained 6 seconds in one season, from one season to the other. This year they slowed all the cars down with the engine power, which is a bit of a shame because otherwise I think we would easily see new lap records. So I'm not quite sure where we'll end up this year now.
Well, I imagine that they must have. That's another slowing the cars down for safety sort of thing. But thankfully, that doesn't affect WEC too much compared to other categories. Anyway, so I think we're coming to a close now to the last 4 questions that have been sent in, and they're more reflective ones. James Huffington asks, if you'd not become a racing driver, what else do you think you would have done?
Most probably something with numbers. I like numbers, so.
Okay.
Everyone, I think from my dad's side and from my mom's side, they were accountants or teachers, so I guess something around accounting wouldn't have been bad.
Yeah, Roman Grosjean was apparently a banker, I remember when he was driving in GP2.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Kelly Francis, another great admin, wants to know if you could go back to the beginning of your motorsport career, is there anything you would have done differently, or no regrets?
Always when you look backwards, you could have done a lot of things better. I think that's not just in racing, that's in life in general, like that. But no regrets. I'm here. I'm where I am. I'm happy with it, and no need to cry about the past. I think we enjoy the past. Otherwise, you wouldn't be happy now.
Yeah, and I imagine you're looking at the future as well, because it definitely looks up at the moment with Porsche.
Yeah. It's bright. There is no issues.
Marcin Wasiluk wants to know what your favourite racing circuits are. We talked a little bit about Kyalami earlier, I think. But any others?
Yeah, Kyalami for sure. Le Mans,
obviously.
The big track is quite special. I liked Malaysia a lot, Sepang, when I was racing there in A1GP. Street circuits are still fun. I miss them a bit. We don't have any here, obviously. But I would say, Le Mans, Kyalami, Sepang, flowing tracks, flowing tracks. I like flowing tracks, not these stop and go things.
No, so street circuits didn't in Champ Car, for example, didn't quite appeal to you as much then?
Oh yeah. Or I think also in A1GP, racing in Durban downtown was what a crazy track. I think it was a quick one. It was proper racing through there, and in Champ Car anyway, San Jose or Las Vegas downtown is a great experiences and great memories.
Speaking of A1GP, wasn't there one track, I think it was Beijing, where basically the hairpin was much too tight to get around or something? Did you have to drive that before they fixed it, or?
No, I wasn't in the first session, so that's why I didn't do it. But yeah, that was kind of a mess.
Oh, well, that's a shame. It's a real shame that A1GP, Super League Formula, Champ Car, that they've all kind of merged into something else, or they've kind of gone now. Do you feel, is there sort of a train? Oh, I'm one of the few champions in, or, you know, A1GP for example, or do you just feel sad that they're not around anymore?
I was one of the best series I've ever driven in. You know, racing was great. As I said, the cars were not technology-wise very sophisticated, but they're good sound, they're decent grip, big tires, simple racing, close racing, and fun off track. You know, good parties afterwards. You had what you would call a dream life in A1GP. My life is now good too, but let's say it was a great racing series. And I think when you talk to anyone about A1, most people agree that it was one of the best times they had.
Lots of fun memories.
Unfortunately, for the series didn't work out commercially, which is a shame.
Last question we have here is from Vitor Antonio, and he says that I see you're really happy all the time during the races. Does that mean you'll continue in the World Endurance Championship for some more happy years? How long do you see yourself driving? You know, just in World Endurance Championship, just.
Yeah, well,
just indefinitely until someone tells you to stop.
No, I mean, generally, first of all, about happiness. No, I'm obviously happy. Yeah. There's no need to be sad. No.
No. Not at all.
I'm enjoying, you know, and in WT, I'm for sure enjoying my life, and I will for sure stay as long as Porsche is staying. That is clear.
Okay then. Well, I think that's pretty much everything we had to ask. So thanks very much for chatting with me, Neel.
No
I'll try not to bother you too much. You know, I know I was a little awkward through there in places, but you know, it's the first time I've done something like this. I have to say it was a real pleasure speaking to you. Really enjoyed it, and best of luck, you know, for the season ahead.
Thank you. Have a good evening then.
Okay. Thanks, Neel. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Ciao.